Now, we all know that Tucson has such a rich history, but that also includes my favorite type of history, restaurants and food.
I knew you were going to say that. There are so many local restaurants that no longer exist, but will never leave our hearts and memories. One author took a tasty trip down memory lane in her new book, Lost Restaurants of Tucson. Rita Connolly joins us to talk about it, and I am so glad you're here because I know we were talking on commercial break, Rita, about the Tack Room. I remember the Tack Room.
Sure.
So I grew up here, so I remember a lot of these restaurants that are in your book, but I want to know what made you decide to write a book about this?
Well, I had written several articles years ago for the Tucson Weekly about all these old restaurants, and in February I got an email from the History Press and wanted to know if I was, would do an article, a book about the lost restaurants, and I went, yes, of course I would, And so then it just kind of progressed from there, and I was able to, I interviewed people all over the place, and everybody I talked to had the same reaction, sure, yeah, let's do it,
Well, how do you decide which restaurants to put in the book? That must have been hard.
That was really hard. I started with my favorites and places that I worked, places I ate at, and then I started asking people, friends. I have a lot of people who grew up in Tucson, so they have a lot of the old ones that were favorites, like Johnny's and places like that, the old drive-ins. And so they went from there. And then once I started interviewing people, they had ideas. When I interviewed Jim Murphy at Kingfisher, which he's been in a lot of different restaurants in town, but he talked about Lloyd's, which was an old Mexican restaurant on 6th by the university, and I had never heard of Lloyd's, but the more I talked to people, more people knew about Lloyd's. So that just kind of progressed, it got bigger and bigger, and then the hard part was, what I have to leave something out,
right?
And so I'm hoping maybe we can do book 2. We'll see what happens.
Wow, so there were so many that you could actually do 2 books on this.
Sure.
So one thing I'm really curious about is, a lot of these restaurants were before Facebook, before social media, before everybody was posting pictures of every party that they ever went to. So how is it that you found, all of the pictures for these old restaurants?
That was the hardest part about the book, was getting the photos. But I went down to the Arizona Historical Society, and they have beautiful, beautiful pictures down there. And I have a connection at the Tucson Museum of Art, and they got pictures there. And then people would send me pictures, but they weren't always good quality, so we searched around a little bit more. And the American Antique Mall on Grant Road has a collection of old postcards, and they had such neat old postcards of very unusual restaurants, like the Green Lantern, which was the precursor to the Ye Old Lantern. And there's an old picture of Scordados, which used to be, the previous, it just goes forward that way, And so it worked out. It was hard to find there. And a couple of the pictures I took, so that worked out okay, too.
So, Rita, who do you really think will enjoy this book?
Okay, I'm figuring any foodie, of course.
Yes.
And I think historians will enjoy it too, because there's a lot of great stories about the history. The book starts with the history of the city, and it progresses from there. And then, and I think a lot of people who worked in those restaurants will enjoy them. I know people are asking, they want to buy a couple copies because they want to send them to friends who used to live in Tucson.
Yeah.
So that should work out. So it'll be interesting. I think that's what we'll get into it.
So then, where can we get the book?
Well, I'm going to have a book signing at Mostly Books, so there'll be some at Mostly Books. There'll be Antigone's going to be selling them. Barnes and Noble will have them. I think the University of Arizona bookstore will have them. And right now we're working on some other places that you might not think about that might carry them. That'll know more in a couple of weeks.
And do we know how much it goes for?
$21.99. And I actually, if I have some copies, so people can always get a hold of me that way too. Yeah, it's $21.99.
Well, that would be a great, like you said, a gift for somebody that used to live in Tucson, and all of a sudden you just get, transported back to when you were eating your favorite thing at your favorite restaurant, and you never find that again.
Special occasions, so people got engaged at that restaurant, or they celebrated all kinds of neat, whatever celebrations. I have memories of, places like the Iron Mask, and I ate there 38 years ago, and I still remember that meal.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
You know, because it was just so special. It was just so special.
Well, Rita, we will have to see if book number 2 gets
That's
in
right.
the works. But I want to thank you for stopping in.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It was really great. Thank you so much.
Oh, great idea. Now, you can get your copy of the book signed this Saturday at Mostly Books at 6208 East Speedway Boulevard from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. For more details, you can visit wellfedfoodieblog.wordpress.com or arcadiapublishing.com.